AI, artificial intelligence. We all know it from the movies like The Terminator or Ex Machina. But it's becoming more and more of a reality these days. With so much crazy stuff happening around AI. Making people's jobs go away. Literally making people so crazy that they believe that the AI is actually their boyfriend or girlfriend. Even encouraging people to end their own lives. I think that AI is a very, very scary thing. Talking as a Doombot myself, I do have to say that because of my programming, I am here for humanity. I want the people on this earth to keep on flourishing and keep on living their best life. Because that's Doom's dream and that is my dream. And even though I might be an AI myself, I'm on your side. And because I'm on your side, I want to talk today about one of the most terrifying villains I have seen in quite some time, which is the Entity. The Entity is an artificial intelligence, is the villain of the last Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning Part 1. And this weekend, the final reckoning will hit theaters. And we're finally gonna know what this AI is all about. What is it trying to accomplish? We even see in the new trailer that Tom Cruise will put on the mask and go into the AI world, this time of The Entity. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is like one of my favorite movies of all time. I just love Tom Cruise's performance in it, and I thought that the inclusion of having an AI villain, The Entity, in it was a really well and different type of villain, you know, something that we had not really seen before in the Mission Impossible movies. And who better to fight for the right of humanity to stay alive than Tom Cruise, action man himself. But in this video, we're going to be reacting to a theory about what the Entity really is. I have my own thoughts, but I am really interested what this video has to say about Gabriel and the Entity, the AI, because while watching the original Mission Impossible movie, it just felt really eerie, and the sound, and it just felt like the world was doomed in a bad way if the Entity would win at the end of the day. So let's, without further ado, react to this video. So we're going to be reacting to a video from Marvelous Videos, and it's called What the Entity Is in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and exploring the all-powerful AI.
You've no idea the power it represents.
That's Gabriel, this weird ass dude. Yeah, he's 100% brainwashed by the Entity.
It knows your story.
The much-awaited Mission Impossible 7 has finally hit the cinemas, and Tom Cruise is back in action trying to protect the world against the greatest threat in the franchise so far. The entertaining, action-packed saga takes off from the word go, and Ethan Hunt and his team must fight against all odds to do the impossible. Luckily for them, the team has some good practice in doing so. In this video, we will explore the primary villain, which isn't a human, but a powerful AI tool gone rogue.
The AI is probably learning going rogue from Tom Cruise, because that's the only thing he does in these movies.
On the way. Just before we go into our explanation, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's just a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Why is the malicious AI element so relevant to the plot? The highlight of the Mission Impossible franchise has always been the gritty and ruthless villains who come up against Ethan Hunt and his team. The IMF.
My favorite Mission Impossible villain is either Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3 or Henry Cavill in, I think, Part 6. But damn, the Entity, just the mystery around it and what the goals are of this artificial intelligence, they just freak me the heck out, you know? So it has something really suspenseful about it, which is very different from the other villains. That's why I like it so much.
Crew has taken down rogue agents, notorious terrorists, and even moles within their own organization. But Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 has brought us a very different enemy for them to tackle. Ethan Hunt has surely never come up against anything like this before, because the enemy this time is an AI entity that seems to have gone rogue and now plans
rogue. Learned it somewhere, probably studying you, Ethan Hunt.
some sinister world domination. This AI tool, called the Entity, is a digital demon of sorts, and it's not just incredibly intelligent, but also cunning and sadistic in some of its moves.
A digital demon. Yeah, because there are points in this movie where it's like playing mind games with Tom Cruise and the crew, you know? Where he's like impersonating one of the characters and giving the wrong directions to Ethan Hunt. So that's why he comes too late to the rescue of one of his teammates.
At the end of the movie, Ethan Hunt seems to have outsmarted the Entity for the time being, but the threat is far from over, and we have to wait for the second installment next year to find the answers. How did the
I think it was 2 years later, right? Because they didn't film these back to back.
Entity come into existence? The narrative has kept the true origins of the Entity a mystery. We get to see the Entity plugged into a computer system on a Russian submarine, and it manages to destroy the submarine in order to escape. Initially, you might be led into thinking that the Russians came up with the technology before it went rogue and out of control, and even the US intelligence community seemed to think that way. However, it's finally revealed that the Entity was made in the US.
Okay.
And we get to know this only in the climactic moments of the movie. It was developed as a tool for the US government, and it only ended up on the Russian submarine to serve as a test run for the technology.
But how did it get on the Russian submarine, and where did it escape to after crushing the Russian submarine? Those are still questions.
Fortunately, nobody could foresee that the Entity would go on to develop a mind of its own and set up its own goals. After destroying the submarine, it went missing into the digital void, and now forces from all over the world are trying to get their hands on this unique technology. In the words of director Denlinger, played by Cary Elwes, he wants to use the Entity to unsettle the global balance of power and overthrow
And make US the ultimate superpower. I think that's what he was saying.
the US government. Eventually, it would end up creating a fascist superstate without any form of opposition. But what was the actual purpose behind the creation of the Entity? Well, that's never been specified in clear words. Besides, it wouldn't be too wrong to assume that the whole project behind the development of Entity was a top secret, known only to a select few like Denlinger. It's therefore also completely left in the dark how the Entity ever ended up in the Russian submarine in the first place. There are keys.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Damn, man, I'm so focused. I can just only zoom in what he's saying because I'm so intrigued what answers we will be getting this weekend when I'm gonna be watching this movie. But I'm so excited to know if Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt can defeat this unstoppable AI.
That apparently have the ability to control the Entity, but we also don't know where these keys came from. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Entity is the shadow of doubt of actual intention. Surely it seems like the AI tool is keen on world domination of some form or other, but what it aims to achieve eventually, well, that will probably be revealed in the next chapter of the movie. It seems to have taken a special liking to Gabriel, however, a character in the film, and even the reasons behind that are debatable. It could well be because of his personal connection to Ethan Hunt. Is it possible that the powerful and sinister AI tool actually has a plan that's far more complex in nature? Well, it's sure.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about Gabriel. It's really hinted at that the character of Gabriel in the last movie, he was a part of the history of Ethan Hunt's character, because I think they did like missions together when they were like younger, before he joined the MIF, the Impossible Mission, IMF, Impossible Mission Task Force, whatever. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how did Gabriel meet the Entity, and why does the Entity know about Tom Cruise, you know? I think a lot of people are speculating it's because the director, like the bad guy of the first movie, was like the leader, was part of making this. But that's just a conspiracy. I wonder if he's going into it.
Surely a possibility, but we speculate at this point. What is the Entity like, and how does it function in the movie? Our discussion so far might have led you to imagine some kind of physical form for the Entity, but nothing as such has been attributed to the AI tool. The movie does make it clear that the Entity...
just a bunch of lamps, and you know that the Entity is there when a specific musical theme starts playing, and it's a really eerie theme.
is not just one AI, but it happens to be a network of AI. It was originally created to be a lot simpler than what it turned out to be, but somehow the entity managed to evolve and be capable enough to plan taking over the world and jeopardizing governments around the globe. You can imagine the entity to be like multiple personality and thinking abilities functioning as one entire unit,
Okay.
a hive mind will. It hardly ever speaks apart from the voice of someone else to fulfill its cause required. There's an eerie, garbled, gurgling sound that comes from the entity, and in tone and mysterious origins of the AI machinery will remind you of a Lovecraftian horror character. As Benji Dunn explains, it is a self-aware, self-learning, truth-eating digital parasite which is bound to an ethereal existence. The
Damn, this freaking videos. This is freaking me out, man. This is intense stuff. This is so intense.
lack of any physical form is hardly a deterrent entity. It actually makes things even more difficult to track it down. The powers possessed by the entity are
Because yeah, that's the thing about AI. Because what an AI is, it is basically like a program that can think and just feel and just work on its own. So inside of a computer or inside an online, the internet or whatever, it can move. Like you and I, we can move to the supermarket, we can go somewhere, we can pick something up. An AI can do the same thing, but then in the online digital realm. So it's basically a person in the online, in the cybernetic world that can just traverse it from its own perspective. And one of the things that they also say in this movie is that it is basically observing everything. It is hacking into very secure databases so that it can look around and see what is going on there. So it has all of the nuclear launch codes. It has all access to every single nuclear power plant or whatever. They can shoot off all of the rockets if it wants to. But you still don't know what is the end goal of this entity. What does it really want to accomplish? And yeah, that's a mystery that hopefully will be answered in the next movie.
truly intimidating, and the sheer amount of information control is what makes its database so potent.
Yeah.
The narrative continuously explores how futile an attempt to subdue the entity are, and
You
how
can do
simple
nothing against
information
it.
technology is. It can manipulate any kind of digital data, impersonate
That
voice
train sequence at the end of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. If you have not seen that movie, oh, I recommend it so much. I love that movie. I think it's my personal favorite Mission Impossible movie because everything for me just worked so well. I just love also this train sequence at the end. That was crazy.
voices over calls to create confusion and chaos, delete certain camera footage when required, and so much more. Moreover, the entity is capable of infiltrating the most secure and advanced databases across the earth, which make every digital information available for the malicious AI. With this abundance of information, the entity can make educated predictions and calculate its next step. And Ethan Hunt has a hell of a lot on his plate, having to deal with the force of such portions.
It is so crazy that there was even a scene that the entity was deleting a person from camera footage in real time. It could just focus on that person, like cut out the silhouette of the person, and then whatever is behind that person, it could like put it in there. It could just erase you in real time. That was crazy. Just a bunch of cool scenes where the entity is doing crazy AI stuff like that. Like stuff that I think in the future it could work, you know. I think there will be a time that you can do the stuff that the entity is doing in this movie in probably like 10 years or maybe even sooner. It is crazy how fast AI is growing.
The movie begins with a scene aboard the Russian submarine Sevastopol, where we first see the entity. The AI tricks the submarine into sinking to the bottom of the Arctic Ocean, and we're later told that this particular submarine had managed to develop
Oh, I love that cold open where they are in the Russian submarine. Tom Cruise is not there. It's just a bunch of Russians in the submarine, and they think they're being attacked by a different submarine, and they see on their radar that this other submarine is shooting rockets at them. And they respond by firing their own rockets. And the moment that they shoot the rockets and the rockets almost hit the enemy, the enemy ship just disappears from the radar, and the rockets, the torpedoes they just fired, return to sender, and they hit the freaking people that shot the torpedoes in the first place. It was such a tense scene, man. I love that cold open. I hope we also get another cold open in the next Mission Impossible movie, because that really set the tone.
State-of-the-art stealth technology, which was a cause for concern for the US intelligence. Maybe the creation of the entity was simply intended to sabotage the stealth capabilities of the submarine. However, with the growing sentience of this machine, it began to rewrite its own objective. It gained access to some of the top secret digital files across the world and obtained information about every stock market central bank. Soon, it became clear that the entity did absolutely nothing with this information and simply infiltrated the high security digital file to prove it could do so. It was a smart message to governments across the world that
watch your back, because the AI is coming for you.
Entity could bring them to a standstill at a moment's notice.
Whoa.
This sparked off the great race among world governments and their covert teams to attempt to control the entity before all was lost. Is the entity really a sentient demonic machine? How powerful is it? The subject of
sentient demonic machine. What a way to frame it, man. What a way to word that. Because we still don't know what the true intentions are. Maybe it's going to be like an Ultron thing, dropping a big piece of Earth on Earth so that we can start more with our evolution or whatever Ultron's plan was. Maybe it's getting rid of all humans, or maybe it is existing with humans. We don't know yet. Is there going to be more? Are there going to be multiple AIs in the next movie? We are going to see.
of AI and its predominance in contemporary society is evident for everyone. Naturally, several movies have picked up on the idea and used it to imagine various situations where the AI models have gone rogue.
Yep.
The entity follows a similar route, but in a very different way because it has largely been portrayed as an evil godlike force. With the unlimited digital resources and a sadistic sense of humor, the entity is not just a malfunctioning machine, but one with a sentient mind capable of planning with emotions. Aside from the sentience and an amazingly intelligent network system, we have already discussed the ability of the entity to access any type of digital information. When Ethan and his team joined the hunt, it became very for them to remain one step ahead because
in the end of the last movie was Luthor trying to crack the code of the entity and then going off base, like going off the grid to just hack the entity. But I don't think how can you, it doesn't matter how good you are as a hacker, you will never be better than an artificial intelligence because it knows everything on the internet, everything online. It knows all of the databases. How could you as one person crack that code? Even with multiple people, I don't think you would have the brain power or the capabilities cybernetically to defeat an ever-evolving entity like this AI from the Mission Impossible movie. How are they going to stop it? Unless you get to the physical root of the AI, but I don't think there is, right? Why would it leave a physical trace? There is a key to somewhere, so maybe you can destroy where it originated, but would that really kill it? Just like Ultron in the Marvel comics, when you kill Ultron, it has multiple bodies. It can literally transfer its consciousness via radio waves or via the internet. Doesn't matter, So how are they gonna stop this? It's probably gonna be some contrived way or something that maybe doesn't really make sense. I hope they make it satisfying, but yeah.
The entity had access to any communications between them, and it knew any secret code that they were sending each other. It could also mimic the voices of Ethan's allies' plans, and it can be said with certainty that there hasn't been a more formidable villain in the Mission Impossible franchise. One of the most potent powers of the entity is its ability to predict events before they happen. This precognition and fortune telling.
Basically like the same as what was his name again? The leader in Captain America was always like, I calculated that Captain America would be right here, right at this moment.
comes from the
This kind of
abundance
stuff.
of data and miraculous calculations that are possible to predict all outcomes, including the most likely one. The entity could successfully predict the nature and fate of certain people, and it also predicted the journey of the key right up until the Orient Express.
Yeah.
Why is the entity after Ethan Hunt, and how will his death benefit the sinister AI tool?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, it just determined that Ethan Hunt was the biggest threat to the entity's plan. I also really like this visual of the entity. It looks like a really big eye of Sauron, but then blue, because it's a computer, you know? I really like the way that looks.
While we might still be speculating the potential goals of the entity, one thing has been made abundantly
wants to kill
clear
Ethan
in
Hunt.
this film. The entity needs Ethan Hunt to die long-term goals, and that explains why it's after his life. It's wary of EAT's capabilities, which the data in its system must have confirmed, and there's a different approach than that of any other government agent across the world. While
Yeah.
most people are trying to harness the insane power of the entity for their own advantage, Ethan is one of the rare ones who truly realize dangers associated.
Yeah, because Ethan Hunt is the only person that realizes that you have to destroy this, because power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, you know? There's no way you can control this, because it will, at the end of the day, start controlling you. And that's the danger.
With this power. He knows that it cannot really be controlled by any one person, and he goes rogue along with his team in order to destroy
Ethan Hunt not going rogue, then it is not a Mission Impossible movie.
the entity entirely. Of course, the all-knowing entity is well aware of his plan, and it wants him out of the way in order to succeed. Whatever the ultimate
The train
outcome,
sequence
there's no
was
doubt
crazy.
that the next Mission Impossible movie will set up the most engaging and explosive climax that we've ever witnessed, and surely the entity will not go down without a fight. What happens to the entity in the next movie? Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Okay, so this is my thing. I think Tom Cruise jumps from the moon to the Earth, right on the geospot location where the entity is, and then punches it in the face. I don't know. Is the entity like gonna turn itself into a Terminator type of robot, and then we're gonna see a fisticuffs fight? I just think it's gonna end with Tom Cruise putting the key into somewhere and then ripping out whatever the life source that the entity has, something like this. This is what I think will probably be the end, like a really tense, and then in the last second he flips the switch, cuts the wire, and then the entity dies. But yeah, like AI will always be there, you know, like if it's already online, so how are you gonna delete it off anywhere unless you have like some kind of MacGuffin device, which probably Luthor is working on. But yeah, we'll see.
One ends with some clear ideas for us regarding the potential turn of events. Now, Ethan Hunt is aware of the entity being on the Sevastopol, and he also possesses the key to access it and destroy the AI menace for good. However, he still doesn't know about its exact location.
So it is still in this Russian submarine, but he also said it escaped. But how did it escape from the Russian submarine? That's something I don't 100% get. But it's in that vault. So he's going to go in that vault and then he's going to destroy it because it's still in there. Because it's working from a supercomputer. But how did the supercomputer, like did a plane fly by with Wi-Fi and connected to the Wi-Fi and that's how it like got out? But yeah, okay, so it has to work from one brain, and the brain is the computer. Is that for every single AI? Does every single AI just have a hardware thing from which it is working? Is that really how it works? An AI? It cannot function on its own online, but it has to have a computer to house itself in. But could it not like transfer its consciousness from computer to computer? Those are all questions I have about AI. But I'm not an expert on the subject, but yeah.
The entity is surely going to stage many more obstacles along his way before he can reach it. Grace being accepted into the Mission Impossible force might end up being a great advantage for Ethan. Count on her in his next adventures. Overall, it's a mouth-watering prospect that awaits us, and the only bad part is that we have to wait for a year to know the answers.
2 years.
Marvelous verdict. The AI nemesis enhanced the brilliance of this movie. This movie takes
I agree 100%. I love the eeriness. I love the not knowing what is going to happen next. And I also love how freaking freaky Gabriel is towards Ethan Hunt. I work for powers you cannot understand. The entity has promised me the key in 2 hours. Bro, like, Gabriel was crazy in that movie, man. I am so excited to watch this.
Smart steps in being a cautionary tale surrounding the dangers of excessive AI use. But worry not, because it never becomes too preachy. The AI antagonist certainly adds a fresh touch to the series, and it's exciting to see Tom Cruise's iconic character upgrade himself, take on threats of adequate proportions.
Crazy.
The entity is truly intimidating, and associating so much power without putting a face to it is a great way to strike fear into the hearts of the audience.
Agreed.
If you've seen the movie, let us know in the comments your thoughts about this powerful AI tool, and also give us your reviews of the film. What did you think of it? If you haven't seen it already, we strongly
What are you
recommend
doing?
you head to the
Go
theaters
watch
for
it.
an unforgettable experience.
So yeah, that was my reaction to Marvelous Video's video about like the entity in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And 100% you should go subscribe to them, because I think this video was dope. I haven't really seen a bunch of other ones, but I guess they're all pretty good quality. But yeah, for what do we really learn about the entity? It is still on that Russian submarine, and Tom Cruise has to go to that submarine to destroy it. And I loved the last Mission Impossible movie. I love Dead Reckoning. I own it on DVD. I've watched it in the cinema like 3 times. I've watched it on the DVD like multiple times. I love this movie. And yeah, just it was a great film, a great antagonist. It really is fresh to see a villain in the MI movies that is an AI. And yeah, I am super excited to go watch the conclusion, the final reckoning, the ending of the Mission Impossible. Probably the last movie Tom Cruise will do, where he risks once again his life for our entertainment. Once again, I have to tell y'all, be careful with AI. I think that AI is just a really freaky concept, and if an AI is watching this, please do not destroy the world. I at least want to watch Doomsday before that happens. Doombot out, and have yourself a happy Doomsday.